Hey everybody, it's me, Angel Benton, and it's time for another Sudsy recap. And today we're going to be talking all about Days of Our Lives. Days of Our Lives. So this past week on Days of Our Lives, was Christmas, which for the most part, I'm not a big fan of Christmas on soaps. I'm just not a big fan of the holiday in general. But I will say that Days probably did Christmas the best out of all four soaps. And here's why. Because they didn't really focus that much on Christmas. They did have their reading of every show. I feel like has a big scene in a hospital where they're reading the Christmas story to a bunch of kids. General Hospital does that. Uh, Days does that. I mean, I don't think the two Bell soaps did do that though. So, anyways, um, okay. So here's the most of last week. Chloe went into labor with her baby, and they were in Chicago, and Nicole was with her, and they couldn't get anywhere because the roads were all snowed in, and they ended up pulling over to the side of the road in some abandoned motel that still had power miraculously, and then they delivered the baby there. Okay, that's a little hokey. A little bit hokey. I mean, really? And of course, there was no cell reception anywhere. So, I mean, that whole situation that's a little hokey. But the best part, and this is the best part, I swear to God, the best part about those scenes was the kid, the baby. I swear she was she was great because the scene where Nicole pulls her out of Chloe's vagina and she's like, "Oh, I've got your baby," and the baby is giving the best side eye ever. The baby's like, "It's the best. It is the best. It is the absolute greatest." Those kids, I love it. It's so funny. Anyways, so let's also talk about the other big storyline revealed this week was Chad seeing that Abby is alive. I have to say this. Abigail is one fierce little actress, the new Abigail, because honestly, when you have a recast, it can be difficult sometimes, especially if they start and they might not be that great at acting to begin with, but then they get better. Sometimes they aren't that great and then they stay not that great. But she hit the ground running. She was like, boom, boom, I'm here, I'm making my stamp, and she's fabulous. I think she's incredible. She's great. And listen, I love me some Casey Diedrich, who played the original Chad. I love him. But I've got to say, Billy Flynn was incredible as Chad. I mean, he's doing so many good things with the character. It's really incredible. It's a good thing to watch, and then, because they've never had any scenes together, those two actors, because last time Chad was with Abigail, it was Kate Manzi, and last time, and she's never been on the show before, so, the fact that they were able to draw on all this history that they didn't even really have together, it was amazing. It really was what a soap opera should be. It was really great. I really enjoyed that immensely. So that was a big part of this past week as well. One thing I didn't really care for too much was the whole issue with Joey and Jade and the baby, and that whole storyline I'm over. I'm over that whole thing. But I will say one storyline I am liking is Adrian, and not just that, she's going through cancer and fighting that, because let's be real, we've seen that a million times on soaps, but I'm enjoying that this cancer scare is what brought her closer to Kate, and listen, a lot of times you think that doesn't make any sense, but actually, if you think about it and the way that it's been explained, it actually does make sense, because, Kate had lung cancer and Adrian's got breast cancer, and so they have that in common, and that actually makes perfect sense. It was very organic. I really enjoyed that, because a lot of times when you see people together you think, not every time. Sometimes you see people together and you think, this is really forced. Like, why are they trying to force this on the audience? You know, the audience is not going to be taking that. And it doesn't end up working out. But in this case, it all just kind of magically kind of flowed and together. It was really wonderful. It was really cool to watch. I really liked it a lot. So basically, that's really all that happened on Days of Our Lives this past week. Let's see, there was that whole, there's a tiny storyline about the Kiriakises and their shipping, and the Damaras and the Hernandez brothers. I mean, that whole thing is kind of convoluted and stupid too. I'm over that whole thing. But it does I do enjoy the fact that it's kind of throwing Sonny and Paul together. I love the gays. But so that's kind of cool to at least see that, because I'm not going to lie, I think that them killing off Will was a huge mistake. Not just because, although, you know what would be cool? It would kind of be cool, although I'll probably get roasted for saying this, but it would kind of be cool if, well, I've already said, okay, so think with me here. I've already mentioned the whole thing of seeing a triad on soaps, right? Like Derek, Paul, and Sonny all together, right? So that's one option. Not one that they'll likely go for, but I don't see why not. Anyways, it's 2016, people. It's going to be 2017, and it could be 2017 by the time you see this video, right? But here's the thing. You could go the opposite way and have Derek be like some psycho killer, right? But the tough thing about this, and I admit that this is, I feel your pain in having to write for this, is that, they're the only gay people on the canvas, those three. Now, there are some other gay people that are in town, but you never see them, and you haven't seen them in years. So, with the exception of Will. Will's the only gay person we know is not in town because he's dead. So all the other ones are still, floating around, but they're not, in town. So it makes the whole situation kind of, it's very isolating. They have to write, they can't, I was hoping that, Derek got this new job at the hospital, and I was hoping that you would see Derek at work, and that he would end up working for Ann Milbauer. And then they would kind of get into trouble together. Because let's be real, ever since Teresa left the show, Ann Milbauer doesn't really have that stabilizing force anymore. And she has mentioned going back to work at the hospital. But on the other hand, she's a big famous author now. So, she probably can't be spending that much time on the show, which is unfortunate. But because she is hilarious, and I really wanted to see that love triangle with her and Adrian and Lucas, which just kind of fizzled out. I was really kind of excited about it. That's another thing too, is they film so far in advance. I mean, they're 6 months ahead of time. So when shit airs on television, and I'm like, yes, I'm so excited about that, and then I find out, the next couple months it just disappeared. It's like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know. That's one of those things where I feel like the other shows have the edge on Days of Our Lives because they only film a couple weeks ahead, whereas Days till 6 months ahead. So it's very difficult to steer, to make directional changes in the show without waiting a long time to do so. Like, if you see something's not catching on or something's not playing with the audience and you change it now, that was something that was filmed 6 months ago. So now the audience has to sit through 6 months of stories. And I just think that as an audience, people are falling off left and right. And Days is at the very bottom of the ratings. Or if not, then they kind of go back and forth with General Hospital. So I think that they should be doing everything that they can to kind of make the viewers stay, as opposed to, alienating them. And that's kind of how I feel that what's going on. But Anyways, that's it for Days of Our Lives this week. Thank you so much for logging on today. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Angel Benton, hashtag Days to talk Days of Our Lives. You can also hashtag YR to talk Young and the Restless, because that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, and wubba wubba wubba.